Well, I don't know about an avid, but I like them. Anybody got horses? Anybody been around horses? What do you like about them?
Everything.
Everything. Well, I got notes, I may have to open them up, I don't know. Cause it's like a preacher, you go to church and he's got his sermon laid out, and he said, I didn't use it. And God put himself up, something else on his heart, so that's, yeah. So, but I'll get back to them, cause I got some things I really want to cover. But, I grew up there in Tanner, the great big metropolis of Tanner, and we had horses. And one thing I'm gonna be talking about tonight is something that we use. It was a phrase coined, I think back in the 80s by a fellow horseman. It's called natural horsemanship. And natural horsemanship, I don't know if any of you ever heard of it, but it's teaching horses using their nature and not ours. Horses are not gonna come in our world. We're going into theirs. Okay? They are very intelligent. And I read some stuff when I was doing the research, and I'm gonna read it tonight. Yeah, I thought, wow, we know that, but we don't know it until it's put in print and put in front of us. We didn't know we knew it, okay? But, and you go know that I skip around a lot, okay? And I walk a lot. I can't keep my feet still, you know, like somebody talking, you know, keep their hands still, but I walk a lot when I talk. But I grew up on a farm, we had horses, and we had Belgians, and we used them as plow horses. And first horse I ever rode, I think I was 3 years old, called her Old Mary. And the first thing that I loved about horses was the smell. You get up next to that egg, and all of them don't smell that way. All of them, you know, they're different. You got you have a smell that you're gonna remember for the rest of your life. How many of you ever heard a song from your past and it brought up a memory from that time? I do that way with horses. Horses, I smell some, they just smell like a horse. But I smell some, it smells like my life. So, my dad introduced me to horses, and we were kind of natural horsemanship back then, and we didn't really know it. You know, and you gotta be, you got to understand the horse, how it thinks, but first you gotta know how it thinks. Okay? Horses are prey animals, we're predators. But when we're around horses, we can't act like a predator. Okay? Horses will pick up on every emotion that we have. They will pick up on every body movement that we have. I've had students you know, like we have certain things we do with horses as far as groundwork. And I've had students, okay, let's say we're gonna put this horse in a circle. I said, don't you do a thing to ask that horse to turn to face you. Do nothing, not one thing. But when it gets to a certain point, I want you to think about it turning facing you. And at that point, they're thinking, that horse goes, something in our body, an eyebrow, or I don't know, but they are very intuitive, very intelligent for a horse in their own way, okay? All right, now, I'm gonna get to here. We got 2 hours, right?
No.
Let me give you a little bit of my history I didn't start teaching about horses until I turned 50. I was in the other world. I was in the corporate world. But people said, you was always around that. I said, well, what do you mean? I was always around the image of the cowboy. I retired from Marlboro. So after 20 years, I retired. Then started doing this, and been doing this about 21, 22 years. And it was a love, and always will be. I'll always be a part of it. I never did rodeo. Didn't hear anything about the rodeo. Went to a few, but when you start reading the horse and you start seeing the pain that some of them are in, you can't go anymore. You can't go. It's just like these, I don't have any friends that walking horse bars. Anybody in here got walking horse or been in a walking horse bar? Those horses are abused. And I'm not gonna get into the detail of it, but anyway. I've been very fortunate or blessed to do a lot of things, in the horse world and the rest of it too. But I lived down in Coleman for a while. When I moved back home after my mom passed, I stopped at this Camellia's store and saw this little newspaper. And I thought, So I picked it up and called the editor and I said, do you need a horse column in the paper? He said, I don't know. He said, let me come out there and talk to you. And he did. And I started writing for that paper. It's called Athens Now, back then, okay? And then this other guy started doing another paper called the Valley Star. So I started writing articles for him too. And then this magazine called, oh man, they don't publish anymore, but I guess called mine got in there and they wouldn't work. I've got the name of it, horses something. But anyway, I wrote for them, so I've been writing since, 22 years, doing articles and I gotta put them together in a book. But then, lucky enough, after doing some of that, I was contacted by a radio station and wanted to know if I wanted an ad on the radio station. I said, well, I don't know. So they came out and talked to me. And then they left. And then wasn't a day or two, they called back and said, how would you like to do a radio show? I said, I never done anything like that. You talk about stage fright? That's my fright. So, but anyway, after about 10 years, I thought, well, that was pretty neat. So I did a radio show called All About Horses for 10 years. On a little station there in Athens called WKEC. And then we did TV for 1 year, but that took up too much time and I couldn't do it. So, but anyway, thank y'all for listening to that. Now we get into the sermon. I've talked to a couple of you here, y'all probably know more about the older horses than I do. I'm doing research and it's kind of, you do research and you go, wow, I didn't know that. And then you want to add some more to it. And then everything that I looked up, if I'd have wrote it all down, it'd take 5 sessions to tell about it. So I've tweaked this a whole lot and narrowed it down to just a few words about things where we can move along, but I want to get to the present. Okay? So I had to look at my notes. I'm old, my mind is about gone. So as the first horses, as far as we know, and I don't know how we know that somebody got a black and white picture of it, was here in 55 million years ago. And it was about the size of a dog. And what I mean by here, they started here in North America. And then over millions of years, they migrated and there wasn't any here. But later on, how they got back to North America was Christopher Columbus and the Spaniard, what's that word? Yeah, that word. And they brought the horses back. Okay. The first horses were domesticated around 3500 BC. And then again, how do we know that? Our ancestors handed down. Yeah, we could ride. And talk about riding, what was the first person to ride a horse? What was the first person that rode a horse? You see that thing out there bucking and carrying on? I wonder what Susie would think if I could get on that one. That's the only reason we do it. These bucking broncs and bulls, that's the only reason guys do it. Say, that girl's gonna watch me do it. But anyway, horses, and y'all pretty close to my age. I mean, I got on a lot of you, I'm sure. But you know how horses, help develop America, with the hauling and the pulling and building the train tracks and all that kind of stuff. But there's one thing that really, got to me a little bit, and it's one of those things, if you like horses, love horses, and you see a horse that's needs medical attention, needs something, is hurt or something, it's gotta touch your heart somehow, okay? So I was, in the radio show, I was very fortunate to interview a lady, and she wrote a book they called her Reckless. You ever heard of that mare? She was a mare from Mongolia that was in the Korean War. And the little mare would haul munitions from one camp to the soldiers in another camp by herself. There were more than just her. There were several war horses, they called them. There were 3 that were very prominent, and she was one of them. And that's why I'm kind of partial to her, is because the lady who wrote the book was on my show. And Reckless, she was retired Sergeant Reckless. And there is a monument at Camp Pendleton of her carrying munitions. There is a documentary of her called Reckless. And if you like things like that, little history, that would be something to really look at. But those things, really kind of get to you when you start hearing about them, reading about them. And this is another thing, we have war. I mean, everybody's at war somehow or another, okay? And this, I just remembered this just now. Horses tend to bring people together sometimes. Okay, here's the story that I remember. These, I don't know what country, but they were, fighting one another, and this horse is in between them, tangled in barbed wire. They looked at one another, laid their guns down, went out, cut the horse out of the barbed wire, got it loose, and then went back and got the guns and started. And that should have ended the war right there. We came together for something. This horse. Horses, like I said, are very intelligent. They and I got something I'm gonna read about the war horse in a minute. But they, like I said, they pick up on your emotions. I had a lady come in the barn one time and get ready for a lesson. She was running late, and she came in the barn, in a hurry, and the horse went, I said, go back out, come back in slow. They could read your, like I said, your body language, your emotions. A horse can feel your heartbeat when you're 4 feet away from it, when you're that close. They can, if you stay with the horse, they can regulate your heartbeat. And that's why a lot of horses are used for soldiers or anybody that's had, that had PTSD, some type of mental disorder. Have a guy on the show that was, his name was Rubik Isaacson, and his son was autistic. And he was trying, he never spoke. He was trying his best to find somehow to help his son with the autism. And he ended up going to Mongolia, trying to find a shaman to have his son. Well, his son was sitting there one day, and I'm shortening the story up, was sitting there one day, and this horse, they tend to pick up on things like that, okay? But this horse came up to his son, put his nose down, just kind of nuzzled him. He spoke his first words. I'm gonna tell you, I'm here to tell you, I have cried a many tears with a horse. Many of them. When I've lost them, when I've had to put them down and lost them, it's the same thing. Or we got something correct that we've been trying to work on for a month. And it just happened one day.
Oh, what species of horses is common?
Common?
Common.
Come under.
He said, what species does the horse come under?
Oh, it's equine.
I said, what, is it a mammal or?
Yes, yes.
A mammal.
Yeah, they have live born, yeah.
So, a horse is like a human being, it's a mammal.
Right.
Like,
Yeah,
it's just like a dog. A dog's a mammal. and it's
correct.
like-
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, we are. We're mammals.
We're mammals. Well,
Yeah.
We can take, the horses can take the same medicine man can take.
Yeah.
We
And they
have
take
the
more
same
pain than we
problem.
do.
Dogs have the same problem that horses have. They can take the same medicine horses and infants take.
Yeah. I want to read this, and and the name of it is called The Silent Charge. It's about the war horse, okay? In fields where thunder was not the sky, but cannons cracking earth and cry, they galloped on through smoke and flame, without a voice, without a name. No medals pinned under their chest, no comfort, praise, or moments of rest. Yet through the mud and wire they ran, with loyalty unmatched by man. They bore the wounded, hauled the dead, tread paths of fear where angels fled. Through blood and soaked soil and gas-choked air, they pressed ahead, though none were spared. A gentle eye, a straining flank, they fell in silence, rank by rank. No bugle blew, no marble stone, just shattered bones in fields overgrown. Yet still they charge, in memories feel, their quiet courage unconcealed. Let us recall their wordless grace, the war horse ghost time can erase. That gets your heart struggling a little bit, don't it?
Yes, it does.
Did mine. It did mine. You know, when you like them, love them as much as we do. Y'all, let's go and get away from that a little bit. Y'all.
Back in the 20s and the 30s, horses was a famous movie going theme.
Yeah.
It was a real famous movie.
They're the four-
Anything today's situation is.
Yeah, they're the first four-wheel drive.
Yeah, horses were top movie makers back then.
Yeah.
Cowboys and horses were top movie makers then. Some was the
All right.
best film that ever made. Was
I'm gonna
Cowboys and horses.
get into a little economics. Very little. Today's horse industry, and this study was done by Auburn University and the Alabama Horse Council years ago, so these figures may not be correct today, maybe a little more. But the horse industry economic impact in the state of Alabama is $2 billion per year. $2 billion, the horse impact. Now, you think, well, what does that mean? That means you got feed stores, that means you got fencing, you got tax stores, you got all the veterinarians, you got horseshoers. All this stuff kind of goes into all of that for this dollar. And then you got your farmers, you know, they got to sell to the feed stores. And you see how it just grows and grows and grows. So these numbers are probably skewed just a little bit. Now, in the Huntsville area, the economic impact is $373 million. That's just Huntsville. So when you see somebody with a horse goes, thank you, you're impacting my economy.
That's just about 3 people there.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. You know how to become a millionaire? Start out with $2 million and get you a horse.
What's an average horse cost now, just a regular horse?
A regular horse.
I mean, not especially.
No, I mean, just those standard old run-of-the-mill, yeah. It depends. Depends on what you're willing to pay, one thing. I'm gonna tell you, the most I've ever paid for a horse was $1,200. And I had 8. Probably 6 of them were given to me. Well, no, there's no such thing as a free horse.
Yes, they do have horses. They do. The federal government have the ranch out in Colorado. They raise wild horses, buffalo bills. You can get them free. They give them to you.
Yeah, the BLM, yeah.
Federal government does that.
Yeah, you just gotta qualify for it.
Huh? Yes, the federal government have wild horses. They have a division. They have a division where they raise wild horses. There's
Right.
nothing to do with out there but wild horses and wild buffaloes.
Jim, I think one that you can kind of count on riding is about $3,000 to $5,000.
Yeah, I would think that in those last 2, yeah.
And you take care of it for a year?
Well, yeah, that's kind of like that. Depends on the hay crop. You know, if it's dry, hay's gonna be scarce, it's gonna be high. If, hay crop's good, then it's not gonna be as high. But then your feed depends. I had a Purina feed guy tell me one time, all feed costs the same. Whether it's cheap feed or the expensive feed, all of it costs the same. Because your elite feeds, I'm gonna call it, has minerals in a scoop that a less expensive takes more than a scoop to get those same minerals. Okay. So you have to feed a lot more of that cheap stuff. Let's see, I've lost. Okay, this is something to think about if you got horses, okay, or gonna be around horses. 5 things that horses will always remember. And I'm just gonna tell you the top. I'm not gonna go into detail on what it is, but they remember places. Okay? They've been to a barn, or been to an arena, or they remember that. They have a memory that is second to none. Not even the elephant. So when you are around horses, you need, if you do something that horse doesn't like, they're gonna remember it. I've had horses to come to my farm, and I get out there, I get the lead rope and the horse, and I said, okay, I try to read the horse a little bit, and the lady or the guy says, well, the last person that held him, that horse wore a cowboy hat, he just don't like him. It is that, it's that fine. You go out to pasture. Now this is funny, okay? We always want to tell jokes and stuff, and Vicky knows I like to tell jokes. If you're on my Facebook, you're gonna get a bunch of them. But you see people walk out of the pasture to catch a horse, and they got the horse like this. Come on, you're not fooling that horse. If I took a picture of this is funny, okay? And we're gonna get back on track here in a minute. But had a couple that wanted to board overnight at the barn one time. They wanted to go to Kentucky and pick up a yearling, and wanted to board it there overnight on the way back to Florida. I said, sure, that's fine. They brought it, stopped there, put it in a stall. The next morning they came out, go load it up, and take it on to Florida. Well, they put the halter on the horse in the stall and took it out to the trailer. And about 45 minutes later, I thought, well, I walked out there. Far Side Cartoon now. How many know what Far Side Cartoon is? Okay, so I look, and there's people around the corner, and the ladies are standing, both of them are standing in the trailer. And she's pulling the rope, and he's standing beside her with a fleck of hay, saying, come on. I mean, I don't know what y'all do or did or what, but I know you've seen some comical stuff in your vocation, and that's things that stick with you, okay? Now, I do things like that. I talk about things like that. I joke around a lot like that, because what's the easiest way to learn something? When you're laughing? Makes it fun, don't it? Yeah. You laugh and have fun. It's not like, oh God, we got to learn this in. Okay, so places, right? Number two, people. It's like, they recognize you. Okay, there's one, say somebody, had a horse for years and they sold it, gave it away or whatever they left. And somebody came up and said, this guy used to own this horse, and showed that picture of that horse will recognize that owner in that picture. Isn't that something?
How do you know that?
The reaction of the horse, the response of the horse.
They are mammals, they have sensibility, they are mammals. Like the human being does, they are mammals, they have sense of human being, sense of human.
They recognize, they remember emotions, when you're stressed, angry, especially anger. Okay? Happy, smile. That's why there's only two emotions you can have with a horse. One is laughter, and the other is patience. If you don't learn patience, get a horse. If you don't have patience, they will teach you patience. Because like I said, it's their world, not ours. 4 are the horses. They're the pasture buddies. You take them away, go somewhere on a trail ride, and you come back, and then Jim can attest to this about him going trail riding and leaving a horse at home, and the horse comes back, and all of them, here comes Buddy. Here all of them run to the fence, waiting on Ricky to pull in. Yeah. So they recognize trailers. There's people brought horses to the barn. If they see a horse trailer come down the road, they get all excited. They said, somebody else to pick on. This is one that I have to pay attention to. Words. They recognize words. They recognize when you're angry at them. And the short words are they recognize easier. But like, whoa, and oh no, those kind of things. But, on the saddle, talking about oh no, on the saddle, we usually put a little rope around the pommel, and where you can hook your hand in there, and it actually is called a night latch. What the old ranchers used to do when they're herding cattle, they'd hook their hand in there, that way if they went to sleep, they wouldn't fall off. But what we call it is a no handle. Oh no. Something started happening, you got hold of that rope, all right? Now,
have you seen somebody herding the cattle with horses?
Herding cattle, yeah.
Have you ever been there and seen that happen in life?
Yeah, not at night, no. It's dark.
In life, not at night, I said life.
Right, yeah. It's pretty. There's like sheepdogs.
Do they do that in Coleman County where you stay at?
It's what?
Do they do that in Coleman County?
No, I live here in Limestone.
They don't do that in Limestone County.
Well, they do in contests, they do in events, yeah, but not, they don't have droves, no.
No, they don't do it. They used to do it when I was a boy, but they don't do that. And it's too much population of human beings, and cars, and automobiles. The modern life of things today is not like it was 40, 50 years ago. You could do that.
That's my next point. When the Model T was invented, horses started to decline as far as their use. And then the equipment, and it declined even more. And more equipment, and now what we use horses for is entertainment, companionship, bonding. Like I said a while ago, PTSD, mental disorders. I've done several things with, y'all heard of Fitting the Pieces autism group? I've done several things with them, with horses, and I would take, especially the Walk for Autism there in Athens, they would do that. I'd take a couple of horses and where the kids could ride. And, a lot of people, oh no, a horse can tell. A horse can tell. Those kids, some of them, I don't know how to say this without being politically correct, but y'all forgive me how I'm gonna say this, but some of them were pretty bad, okay? I don't know how to say it. And it took a lot to get them on the horse. And they were all armed. And the horse is sitting there like, I got this. And when the horse started walking off, the horse knew. The horse knew. Just like the Horse Boy, that documentary, it's called Horse Boy. That's another documentary about the autism kid. But, you know, horses can help us if we have some type of fear. I've done fear makeovers at the barn. You know, people go, oh, I'm scared, you know, I'm scared. And there's always a place to start. And what Ray Hunt used to say, he was an old horseman, died back in, I think, 2012 when he died. He was one of the original natural horsemanship guys. And he'd always say, if you don't know where to start in the front. You know, start in the beginning and back up. It's easier to do that than start in the middle and lose yourself. Okay? Horses sleep about 3 hours a day. And so they graze the rest of the time. And they also do what we do. When you're dreaming, that's called REM sleep. Rapid eye, okay? And the only time they do that is when they're laying on the ground. REM sleep. And they'll do that for about 30 minutes. Okay? Now, and they'll only do that kind of thing if they're comfortable with their surroundings. If the rest of the herd is with them, as lookouts, so to speak, then they'll lay down. And I've had people stop by the bar and say, you got our dead horse. I said, no, he's just sleeping. Leave him alone. But how many of y'all have been sleep deprived? I mean, you ain't real good mood, are you? You don't feel real good. Horses are the same way. Sleep, yeah, not enough sleep. I get tanked on. But yeah, they're the same way. If they can't get in that REM sleep, they're gonna be agitated. They're gonna be, and we call it, well, they must have got up on the wrong side of the corral. So, but they have to do that too. I've seen people, oh, let me go out there and wake him up. No. There's somebody come in your house about 3 o'clock in the morning, wake you up when you're dreaming. That would be something. Today, like I was saying a while ago, today's horses, we do this natural horsemanship, okay? Horses, we've learned to grade horses. And what I mean by that, they either right-brained, left-brained, introvert, extrovert, okay? And I was telling a while ago that I taught this class at the barn, and also taught it at Athens State University. It was an 8-week course, and it's called Understanding the Body Language of the Horse. And then the other part of it was knowing what to do. So if you got an extroverted horse, that means that horse is very unconfident. He wants to go, he wants to get away, he wants to fly off. I'm out of here, okay? You got an introverted horse, you're gonna have to take something to get him moving. He just, okay. I'm just gonna stand here. But see, those and there are different extremes to those horses, okay? And I'm not gonna get into all of that. I mean, it's just a great big chart, great big graph. And when I would do these classes at the farm, you see, it's very, you can't see it, but it gets scientific on it's just not a horse. You don't go out there and say, get up, you don't kick them to go, pull them to stop, and yank them to turn. It's all communication. You start it on the ground, goes to the saddle, okay? And it takes time. Horses are different, or different horses. So you have to, what we say, you have to work with the horse that showed up. Whether it's the right brain today, and then that same horse is the left brain one. They're kind of like us. We kind of have pretty close to the same makeup in a way. Well, some people said I did. I'm horses, but But anyway, that was a joke that could stay out of that. Okay, oh, how many are from Madison, Huntsville here? Have y'all heard the story of Jesse James robbing the First National Bank, jumping off in Big Spring Park and running off with $10,000? I'm sorry, it ain't true. I looked that up, I said, I'm writing that down, because I'd always heard that. Said he had never been to Huntsville. Now his brother Frank had been to Huntsville in trial for robbing a payroll in Muscle Shoals in 1884. But yeah, when I read that with Jesse James, I thought, oh man, that was a good thing to pass on. And a lot of people have been to Big Spring Park, and I thought, I'd kill that horse. Jumping over there. But anyway, like I said, horses are for partnerships, relationships. I had one, my horse, golly. Her name was Rosie. She had cancer. I hate cancer. I hate cancer. 2 sisters and a daughter that had cancer. But I didn't put them down, I had to put her down. But I had to put her down, and she was a dancing horse. She was a little Walkaloosa. Walkaloosa is like an Appaloosa and a walking horse cross. She was spotted on the hip, and then sweetest, man, I couldn't. And when I put her down, people asked me, said, "You gonna develop another one?" I said, I got some that I can do stuff with, but I'm not gonna go as far as with them as I did her. Ever heard of Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers? That's how we danced. On the ground. Both of us on the ground. And do the spins and all this kind of stuff. We call it at liberty. And it's all through body language, understanding her language, she understanding my language, move her hips sideways, back up, and then she'd run, you'll run off. And what I mean by that is, we were dancing to Whitney Houston's song. I wouldn't have anything if I didn't have you. Is that, yeah. In the song where Whitney was singing, "Don't Walk Away From Me," well, Rosie would walk away, and I would just kind of, and she'd turn and come back, and we'd start dancing again. Things like that, there ain't money to buy it. There ain't money to buy it. That's what I was talking about, crying with a horse. Crying with a horse. And I don't care who sees it. First time we did that dance, I was doing a clinic down in Prattville, out for Prattville, and we were doing that first dance, and people were crying in this dance. That's what I was told afterwards. I said, good, it worked. It worked. So anyway, I got one more thing and this is going to be, you've heard Paul Harvey. Now's the rest of the story. Have you heard the one where he said God made the farmer? This is kind of along those lines, okay? And it's what I'll end with, all right? All right, come on, work right. There we go. I'm not very technical with these. Said, many years ago, the farmer prayed, "Dear God, I need someone to help me plow the fields, harvest the crops, and bring them to market." God created the horse. The rancher prayed, "Dear God, I need someone to help me gather my herd, cut the calves out so they can be doctored, and then drive them to the market." God created the horse. A soldier prayed, "Dear God, I need someone to help me bring the cannons and supplies into battle so that we can defend our great nation." God created the horse. The postmaster prayed, "Dear God, I need someone to help me deliver the mail across the great expanses of our nation through rough terrain and great distances." God created the horse. Now, many years later, a horse has been replaced by machines. Many farmers use tractors, soldiers have trucks, postmaster has planes and trains. However, the rancher still uses his horse. So God created the horse. Soldier prays again, "Dear God, I need help to overcome my fears and self-doubt." PTSD. Okay? God created the horse. The horse is not only here for work and show at rodeo or other events, they also help us overcome self-doubt, build self-esteem, and bring ability or disability and order from a disorder. So, thank you, God, for answering our prayers with a horse. Thank you.
How do you react based on how you read a horse? If you were to walk up in a barn lot to a horse, just you and the horse, and you walk up, tell me what you see, what you do, what you're looking for.
Okay, first thing I wouldn't do is put my hand out like this to his nose. Okay, that's getting in his space. And you ever see him when you go up to touch a horse, you go, you don't want to rub him right between the ears, right? He go, okay, he can't see you, but he can feel you. That horse vision, being a prey animal, the eyes on the side, doesn't come together till out here. So if you get too close, he can't see you. Okay? If you get behind him, right up against his tail, he can't see you. Okay? So you gotta be a little, they see 360 around him. So he just tip his head like that to see you back there. Okay? But to answer your question, I go around the barn and answer stuff back there. Okay? But to answer your question, I go around the barn and answer stuff. All right? To answer your question, I would walk up and just, I would be direct on that horse. That's aggression. That's aggression from us. I would walk to the horse and turn sideways and just stand there. Okay? And just stand there. And kind of in a inviting posture. No expression much at all.
You talking to us?
No. You don't understand English?
You say that, but.
Yeah, the words, yeah, they, like I said, I go to words. Now, like a funny story. I went to Hungary in 2009, taught over there. Horsemanship.
Horses are good over there.
And this was the funny thing. I was over there, and you know, in the Bible, you know, speaking in tongues, you know, 1 Corinthians 14, you know, every species of the world has a language and they all are significant. Well, I got to reading that and I thought, wow. So I'm in a foreign country trying to teach people to speak foreign language, the language of a horse with English. Through an interrupter. Interpreter. The interrupter is what I call. But anyway, you give that horse time. If he comes into you and kind of puts his nose out or smells you or something, then you can reach and rub or pet or something underneath or something. But if he doesn't do that, don't force him. Walk away. Walk away. I've caught more horses walking away from me than walking toward me.
Jim, maybe explain a little bit with some of the cues, like what they do with the tail when they're around you and what they do with
Yeah.
the ears.
Okay.
It gives you an idea of what you need to do.
Yeah. What Jim referred to, we teach is called the 7 games that horses play. Horses play games. How many got a swimming pool at their house? How many got a sign around it that says no horse play allowed around here? So they play. But they play using their language, okay? So the first game that we do is, we call it the porcupine, okay? You know, porcupine quill or whatever, okay? And that is get the horse to yield one way away from that pressure, okay? Now horses learn through phases of pressure, okay? And we use what we call 4 phases of pressure. The first one is less than 4 ounces. Second one, a little bit more pressure. We call it hair, skin, muscle, bone. And we use a 4-foot stick, okay? And we hold it and just stand it. I'm not trying to put, and when that horse yields, that pressure comes away, okay? Immediately. So that horse over time will eventually learn that, okay, when I feel that 4 ounces, I need to move away from it. And that is taught on the ground. That's, you know, the hips, the front end, backing up, dropping the head, lifting the head, all of that is taught to that horse by the pressure, by the different pressures. And each pressure lasts 3 seconds because you gotta give that horse time to think, okay? Right? Next one is, we call it the driving game. You do basically the same thing as the first one, but you're not touching the horse. And this would set you up more for the leadership, in my opinion, than a porcupine. Anytime you can get a horse to move his feet, then you're the lead horse. You've heard the saying, well, show that horse who's boss. No. Get it with respect, not out of fear. So what you're doing, you say, let's say this horse is standing here and I want to move his hind end. I mean, just step over. I don't want to go move any part of his body except his hindquarters. I'm gonna walk right here. I'm gonna look right at that heel. Now you see my change? Do you see my posture change? You know, I had one student tell me one time, she said, you know what you're doing. I said, excuse me? She said, you know what you're doing. I said, what? She said, no, you can't articulate what you're doing because you're doing it without even knowing you're doing it. So it's, you walk up and watch everything, okay? So that horse is there, I'm smiling, you know, we're talking, playing, and I walk up, my posture changes. My energy changes, okay? I got energy to come out from in that finger to yield that hindquarter, okay? Now we use sticks to start. And one reason we use the 4-foot stick is the kick zone of a horse is about 4 feet. And if you ask the horse to yield that hindquarter, you better be outside that stick, because if he don't like it, they can cow kick, you know, and then they can kick out to the side. So then you're outside the kick zone. So that's why we start out with the sticks, and also to get them used to things. That stick has a 6-inch string on the end of it. And we just throw it around and flap it around. You get them used to all that kind of stuff. Sometimes we put bags on the end of the strings. And you cannot desensitize a horse to everything in the world, but you can make them more confident. That makes sense? How many of you have ever done something new and you didn't feel very confident? You do it again, you gotta get better at it. If you do it repetitively, then it's nothing, okay? First time you ever drove, oh no, okay? But now we'll pay attention. We're on the phone. Okay. So that kind of thing. The next one is, how many has ever been at you've seen a bunch of horses and all of them come up to the water trough, right? And you got the alpha horse, you know what the alpha horse is? That's the boss horse, okay? Then you got subordinate horses. They have a pecking order. You know, I'm next, okay? So, alpha horse is drinking water. Subordinate comes up there and says, I'm just gonna get in there and get me some water too. Watch that horse tail wiggle. And then you better back up. If you set tail wiggle, you better back up. So, that third game, or fourth game, we call it the yo-yo game. You go back up. Wiggle up, you know, that's the horse's tail wiggling. Then you get some, you know, here and here. You know, I mean, female students, that's hard for them to do. Go from this to this. We joke on, all right. But you wiggle the rope, get them back up, and then you kind of let your posture go down and get the horses come into you. That's the yo and the yo-yo, okay? The fifth game is circling game. How many have ever heard of lunging horses? We don't lunge horses. We ask them to go in a circle, but we're not going to chase them, right? If you lunge a horse, you got to go do, and that horse is going away because they ain't got any choice, okay? And if you notice that horse, he's got the ribs to you and his head looking out the other way, going like this. If he can find an opening, he'd be gone. okay? So what we do is get the horse to go in a circle, and my job's over with. I'm a lazy teacher, I just go and I'm done. He gets behind me, stops, that's okay, pressure him on, I turn, and we start all over, okay? And we go through the 4 phases of pressure again, and I forgot to do that all over, but anyways, we call it, I do things automatically. I turn my foot out, it's like my hand and my foot are connected here. Horse is out there, I'm here with the rope, there, and I got the 4-foot stick with the string, okay? So I go lift, I lead it, right there, that horse should go in a circle. He doesn't, I lift it, I lift that string right up beside the horse. He doesn't go, I swing it, add him more pressure. If he doesn't go, I bring the string over and touch it, right on the shoulder. Not try to cut his head off. You know, just tag him a little bit, make him, okay, I need to step here and go. And some of them, you pick it up pretty quick, some of them don't, but if they didn't, then I wouldn't keep doing this, I would, okay, start it in the morning again. Because I want that horse to be able to go at the lightest pressure, like there, okay? So if you want your horse to be soft, you gotta have that horse, you gotta have a place for that horse to go back to. If you start heavy every time, he has nowhere to go. So you ever heard people call it a horse whisperer? Right? That's the phrase. You want to whisper, go. You know, like I said, I'm lazy. I don't want to work hard to get that horse to do it. Time he's doing what he's doing, I'm gonna give out. You ever seen somebody go on a trail ride and they get back and they're tired than the horse is? So it's all in how you present yourself to the. My dad told me one day, he says, I see what you do. I don't know how you do it. I said, well, Dad, it's how you present yourself to the horse. Same as present yourself to people. It's how you present yourself and how you want people to perceive you. That's all it is. That's all it is. So, in game 6, you know, every I've seen somebody riding a horse, that horse is just beautiful sideways. Well, that's what this game 6 is. Teach your horse to go sideways off pressure. Okay? It's easier to teach him on the ground and get on him and get a cramp in the leg. So it's easier to teach him on the ground. So you know, sideways both directions. And then the last game is, we call it the squeeze game. It goes between you and something. You know, like this is a wall, I want you to go between there, turn around, face me right here and come back. Okay? So horses are claustrophobic, panicholics, skeptics, and cowards in varying degrees. So that's what I was talking about a while ago. You got to work with a horse that shows up, and you got to be able to read if that horse is scared, mad, pushy, and you're not gonna learn it. Oh, give me 2 weeks and I got this. No, ain't happening. Ain't happening. Because that horse is gonna come up there and say, I'm gonna show you ain't got it. With AINT capital letters. You ain't got it yet. And I'm gonna show you how. That horse will show you how, if you listen. You gotta listen to the horse. You ever seen that movie with Robert Redford, The Horse Whisperer? It's a love story kind of, but it's the love of a horse, of this little girl. It's a good movie. Good movie. Yes.
Best thing we ever did, we got a granddaughter that's horse crazy, and her dream was to have a horse, and we had heard that you were somebody good teacher. And I'm so thankful
Thank you.
that we got her in with you.
Best thing that's ever happened to me.
Best things ever happened. We both said we'll cry tonight, but, you know, she would go and do all these games and say, I'm not ever gonna get on this horse. When am I ever gonna ride this horse? You know, he's not letting me put a saddle on this horse. Why can't I ride? And when she got that saddle on that horse,
One day, it just all clicked.
it clicked.
I got this horse and I rode him twice. Jim had me on the ground, doing everything that I've ever done in the saddle. I taught that horse from the ground,
Right, correct.
and it all,
And you said that correct. You taught that horse.
Yep.
I had help.
That's the good, that's the good part is, I'm not gonna teach the horse. I'm gonna teach the student. Have you ever tried to teach a student how to teach something else that don't know? That's the tough part. I had a tough job.
Well, and another thing too that I think is important for people that have never seen what you do is, and I know there are places for bits in horses' mouths, but the horses we've got, the two we have, she doesn't use a bit. She doesn't have to.
Mm.
You taught me how to do it all, I can ride.
I haven't put a bit in a horse's mouth in 22 years.
Yeah, because you're not sewing at the
Yeah.
soft part.
I've had people say, well, my horse is cow's mouth. I said, well, it wasn't born that way.
Yeah.
Get a bigger bit. Then you have to get a bigger bit. You know?
Well,
And people talk about bits. I said, let me tell you what kind of bit to get. He said, what? I said, bit of knowledge. Bit of knowledge.
Well, and another thing too is, I've never been around horses. We've got two that probably will be able to be ridden maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 more years maybe. And it's like, okay, what are you gonna do when you can't ride it anymore? You're gonna love it.
Right.
You're gonna go out there and you're gonna curry it and you're gonna talk to it.
Because
and you're
look,
gonna
look
have a
where it brought you.
relationship.
Look where it brought you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they like salt and pepper mints.
Yes.
How hard is it to retrain a horse that's been mistreated or not trained well?
Start from the front.
You gotta
Start all over.
start all over.
Yeah, and then that horse will take you where it can take you. Okay, that makes sense? You start all over, start in the front, and then gradually and see, because okay, like I said a while ago, you hear a song, it brings back a memory, good or bad. You start doing something with that horse, if you do something that whoever did before, he's gonna look at you the same way he looked at that other person. It's a memory. So you have to be able to develop that horse. We don't train horses. I've never been a horse trainer. We teach them.
And you don't break them either.
We don't break them, we start them. We don't get on a horse and buck them out. Okay? But I've had several unscheduled dismounts, but one on purpose. But you start with the relationship first. Relationship first. There was I know I'm over time. I'm getting over time, aren't I? Am I way over time? Vicki?
2 minutes.
2 minutes over time, or I got 2 minutes left?
You got 2 minutes. left.
Okay, I'll speak fast. I was doing a clinic down in Montgomery at the Alabama Horse Fair, and I was out in the arena and had Rosie, and I was talking, just take some Q&A like we're doing now, and Rosie, she just ran off. People were there making pictures, she's there smiling, and when I got done, I just turned around and went, she come running back. I had the halter and lead rope laying on the ground. She went over there and put her nose, and I said, put it on. Timing. But after I came back, this guy received my message, said, how did you get such a relationship with that horse? Well, then I was writing articles, I come up with a title, then I come up with the text. So the title was, Our Relationships and Our Horses. So I wrote the article, and I got to the end of it, and I asked a question. Am I talking about horses or humans? It's all the same. It's how you present yourself, how you interact with that person. It's how you listen to their issues or problems without, well, let me tell you about mine. Same with the horse. He's going to tell you, this is my problem. But he's not going to say it that way. You got to be able to read the problem. Okay? I quit doing clinics. I quit doing group clinics. And the reason, I have 10 or 12 horses and students, and that's here, boom, boom, boom. And there's always one or two that's going to get all the attention. The other 10, it's not fair to them. So I quit doing those. And I do one or two at a time, so I can devote time with one horse. And I was doing a clinic in St. Florine in Florence, and this lady, she had a horse, and I don't remember if she had it very long. And she said, I can't. I said, no, you can't. So I got the horse and I started doing some stuff, and he was like, now you can tell when a horse is scared, his eyes are wide open, the white around their eyes. I mean, seriously. Now Appaloosa is different, they got white around their eyes all the time. But this horse, I said, where'd he come from? I got him from this guy over here, he was a cowboy, and I said, this horse is scared. He's not mad. He's not mean. He's scared to death. And that horse was a monster. I said, you gotta start over. You gotta start over, building that bond, building that relationship, building that trust. I want you to have such a trust with your horse, you can lay under his belly and look there. Okay?
Tell them about grooming and mutual grooming.
Huh?
I think that is so neat.
That's relationship. You standing beside a horse. The sweet spot on a horse, or friendly spot on a horse, is the withers. Do you know what the withers are? That's the top of the shoulder. Down the neck, right top of the shoulders, that little hump right there. When you get up there, you put your back to their nose, and you start scratching right there. If you got a relationship with a horse, you start scratching, and the horse will turn its nose around, start nuzzling you the same way. We call that mutual grooming. I got one more story, and then I'm gonna quit. I'm gonna go over 2 minutes. There was this couple, and what I mean by reading horses, this one, I may cry on this one, because it was a spiritual moment. This couple brought 2 horses there. They bored there while they were on vacation, and they came to pick their horses up, and they were out in the pasture, quite a while. And I looked out there, and they had one over there, and the other was out there going, running everywhere. I walked out, and I said, may I help? They said, please. So I walked out there. Cowboys, we just kind of mosey around, Okay, put guns in our pockets. And so I just started walking around. But I used to teach my students the peripheral vision. I can look at you, but I can see my fingers. And when I do 6th graders, I can tell when my right finger's moving. There you go. And they get a kick out. How'd you do that? But anyway, I'd be walking around. I knew where that horse was the whole time. And then it would stop and turn. I'd turn and walking behind him. Just walking behind his tail like that. And when it would stop and turn, I'd turn and go the other way. Curiosity didn't give a gap. It caught the horse. I'd do it right the opposite of what that horse thought. He'd turn, I'd do it again. I did that for about 45 minutes with that horse just walking around. I went over, it went over and stuck its head over the fence looking at it. I went over, stood right beside it, looking too. Now, I still see her. She turned and looked at me. I turned and looked at her, and I turned away from her. Not into her, away from her, because I didn't want to put pressure on her. And walked off, and she fell right in behind me. I stopped and rubbed that horse all over. All over. Now, here's the teary part. I went to get the halter from the owner. That horse was far from me to the other side of that hall out there. I put my hand on that halter, and you may say I'm lying, but I'm not. The energy of that horse hit me in the gut from behind. My agenda changed, and that horse knew it. I turned around and I looked at that horse and said, I am sorry. I am sorry. When I put that rope on my arm to put it on her head, she said, I know what you're doing. My body language. My body language. So, I walked around behind that horse the same. I don't hide anything with my horse. You're not going to hide anything with my horse. So I walked around with the halter in my hand. Same way. She turned, I turned, go the other way. And pretty soon, I was walking away. She was behind me. Had the halter here. I stopped walking. She came up where you want me to put my nose.
That hit me right there. I learned more that day than I thought I ever knew about horses. Emotional animals. Emotional animals. Read everything we do. So if you're out working on the fence, you're in their world. Thank you.